there, Kathleen the Allergy Chef. I am so excited to share with you guys some easy sheet pan meals that you can make. I've teamed up with Red Sneakers for Oakley because we are all about celiac disease awareness and food allergy awareness. By the way, make sure you check out the caption for instructions on how to enter the awesome giveaway. Now, sheet pan meals are so easy, and when you're free from one of the biggest struggles, well, two big struggles in the kitchen, dinner and cross contact. So today I'm going to show you guys how to make some easy meals, but also avoid cross contact. We are going to be doing 3 separate meals. I have 3 things here. We're going to be doing a simple sausage with potato and legumes. So you can do like green peas or green beans, or even something else if you wanted to. We're going to be doing almost like a chicken stir fry sheet pan, right? Got some chicken, mushrooms, and then I just purchased this really cool fajita mix just to save on some time and energy. Plus, with my contact allergy to bell pepper, it's easier if they cut the bell pepper for me. But you can save money by just, purchasing actual bell pepper. And then over here, I'm going to show you guys how to make some really great honey ginger beef meatballs, and we will pair that with broccoli. So like beef and broccoli sheet pan, anyone? You can also use like strips of beef, or you can use something else, but no matter which way you cut it, you guys are going to get the great idea on how to go about making these easy sheet pan meals. Now, the first thing we need to do, we're going to prep up our first meal over here. I've got some potatoes and I've got some sausage. We're just going to get these prepped up on my handy dandy cutting board over here. When you're making a sheet pan meal, what you want to be thinking about is the size of all of the food. You generally want it to be about the same size, unless you know that something with a short cook time needs to be made larger to extend the cook time to make up for the fact that another item on your tray has a longer cook time. That is why pre-made sausages are such a great pairing for potatoes and things like green beans, which can stay in the oven a little bit longer. So I'm going to cut my potato in cubes, and I'm going to do it in such a way just to make sure that they're not so big that they cook too slow, but we also don't want them to be so small that they cook too fast. But here's the beauty again in using pre-made sausage, is that even if the cook time is a little bit shorter than I was expecting, because the sausage is already pre-cooked, we're okay, right? And you can get free from sausages in a lot of stores. We like to get ours at Costco. There's a few brands there where if you call them, last I checked, they are free from a lot of not great things. They're free from a lot of major allergens, and many of them are made on dedicated equipment as well. But you'll need to call and find out all the details that work for your family. The cool thing also about sheet pan meals is that you can pretty much wing any recipe, right? I'm going to show you guys the method. I'll give you some light instruction on how to season, but the beauty of these types of meals is that you can absolutely season differently. You can go a little bit under, you can go a little bit over, but also you don't have to use the exact amount of stuff that I'm using. If you are a single person, you don't need to make family-size sheet pan meals. In fact, you can get those really cute half-size sheet pans, and you can just put like a couple of things on it, right? Same concept, same amount of ease, just different amounts. So always keep that in mind. You might see someone like me making this big meal and you think, oh, I could never. You totally can. All right, now that I've got our potatoes cubed, I just have them in this mixing bowl. And the mixing bowl is optional. I'll tell you guys why in a bit. I'm going to grab my sausages, and it's going to be the same process. I'm just going to get these open and get these cut. Now, when you're thinking about how to season for this type of project, right, when we're doing these sheet pan meals, if you're going to go a pre-made sausage route, what I suggest is you look at the ingredients on the sausages, which are here, and then you need to pick something that's complementary, right? So there's garlic and onion and pepper, oregano, pretty much an Italian type of sausage, okay? So I can season with something that's also Italian leaning when I go to season the potatoes. That way I keep them in like the same seasoning family. Unless of course you're into like, something pretty wild. Like maybe you want some Indian potatoes and Italian sausages and you just want to mix the cuisines for dinner. Or maybe you don't, in which case you want to make sure that those season profiles are pretty close. So I'm just going to grab these sausages, and sausages can be cut to any width that you feel is appropriate given the other vegetables on the tray, okay? So I'm doing like a pretty good sized sausage cut here, but also keep in mind, you know, these are pre-cooked sausages that are gonna, you know, cook up pretty quickly as soon as our potatoes are done, because that's the longest cooking item on this particular tray. Once the potatoes are done, the whole meal is done. Before I continue, I'm just going to get my first tray here lined with parchment paper, and that's so I have somewhere for this sausage to hang out. What I like to do, this is just a little cleanup trick for you. Make your parchment paper slightly larger than the tray. Don't fold it. All the juices and all the mess is going to stay right inside of this parchment paper. When you're all done serving, you're literally going to take the whole thing, throw it away, and you can still like wash your tray if you want, but the cleanup will be so easy. Now that we have our sausage on the tray, we're just going to season our potato. I'm going to start with a little bit of oil. To this, I'm going to be adding some amazing balsamic vinegar. It's a balsamic vinegar glaze. Now this is optional. You don't have to use it, but I love using it. I think it adds so much flavor. Now we'll just add our basic ingredients. So we've got salt, and another option for those of you who want to explore something different, smoked salt. That is amazing. Next we've got our garlic, and one of my favorite spices to use, marjoram. It's like a sweet version of oregano. We're just going to add that in. Black pepper. I always say do black pepper to taste because every household will be different. So whatever makes sense to you. And then here I've got some dried spinach. What I love about dried spinach is it doesn't add too much flavor, but it adds a really nice nutritional boost. And then finally I've got my onion granules. Now, one tip I can give you guys, and this also helps with cross contact as well. I like to buy spices in bulk, but then keep refilling the same jar. Now, if for some reason you cannot have cross contact between your spices, and that includes your measuring spoons, you can get small measuring spoons to keep directly in the jars. I do the same thing for flour. So I have like a huge canister of sorghum, has its own set of measuring spoons right inside, never goes anywhere. So it's always the one thing. That way, if someone in your house can't have sorghum, you don't need to worry about like, oh, is there sorghum all over? No, there's not, because it's all contained in the one container. Now we're going to mix this up. We're just going to coat these potatoes, make sure they're well coated in all of that amazing oil, and that the balsamic is running through everything. Our seasonings are well distributed. It smells so good, you guys. Oh my goodness. Oh, I cannot wait. The whole house is going to smell amazing when these are cooking. And you've seen how easy this is so far. It's really just a bunch of cutting and mixing. Pop this right on my tray. If you've got a little bit of goodness still left in your bowl, make sure you scrape it out. So we've got the potatoes on our tray. Last step is to grab our green beans. Any frozen vegetable will do. I like using frozen vegetables because they are picked at peak ripeness, and they're just really easy to use. We can just put them all over our tray here, and that's it. Also, when you are buying frozen vegetables, some of them are made on shared equipment with major allergens. Make sure you are contacting companies about that, because it's not always disclosed on the package. Now, I'm not going to pop this in the oven right away because I want you to see all three trays before we get these going. But this is our first beautiful sheet pan ready to go. All right, for our next sheet pan, we are going to do a barbecue style chicken fajita type thing. I've got this chicken, and these are just chicken wings, nothing special. You can also use chicken fajita strips if they sell them in your area. It's basically pre-cut chicken, like thigh usually, and it's cut into these great little strips. Amazing for cooking. It makes your life so much easier. Okay, so into my mixing bowl. To this, I'm going to just be adding a little bit of tomato sauce. Not too much. I just want it to be like lightly coated. And I'm also going to add some oil. Again, not too much. Now, because this is a barbecue leaning flavor, I'm going to add a little bit of maple sugar. Any granulated sweetener will work. And this step is actually optional. Now we just season like we're seasoning for barbecue. So we're going to add our salt, black pepper, garlic, onion granules. I'm gonna add a little bit of this balsamic too, just because I can. Again, optional. But if you think about the tang in a barbecue sauce, the tang is coming from a vinegar. Traditionally, you'd use like an apple cider vinegar or something of that nature, but why not? You can use any vinegar. One of the best ingredients you can use at home for barbecue type stuff, liquid smoke, okay? I'm just gonna put in a few drops of that. A few drops is all you need, I promise. If you go too heavy on that, people will know. I'm going to add a little bit of cumin. Cumin is a really great deep spice, and it's oftentimes like overlooked, but it can help round out the flavors of your barbecue type foods. And then the last thing I'll be using is ancho chili. Ancho chili, by the way, guys, is one of the best things to use, especially if you're feeding kids and you want something that's like peppery, deep in flavor without the heat. And it's Mr. Smiley Face for the win. We're gonna get this mixed up, making sure that our chicken is well coated. And you can see it starts to get really saucy, as if I sort of made a barbecue sauce. That's why we're doing it like this. All right, I've got my tray lined with parchment paper. I'm going to put down all my chicken. I'm gonna go through and try to make sure they're not stacked on each other so that we get even cooking. And then any extra sauce that you have, just put it right on top. Now this next step is totally optional. What I'm going to do is take my mushroom, and I just want to partially roughly chop it. I just don't want like these giant pieces of mushroom, because nobody in my house is in for that, okay? So I'm just going to go through and lightly cut down these mushrooms. I'm not making like a duck-cell type of texture, nothing so fine, you know, but just enough so that it's just not gigantic pieces of mushroom. Now, before we add this to the tray, pulling out my secret weapon, smoked salt. Oh my goodness, it smells so good. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, we are just going to give our mushrooms a little sprinkle of smoked salt. Okay, and just sort of lightly mix that up. Nothing too official, just a little sprinkle. So I'm just going to slide these right onto our tray. And I will add just a touch more of that smoked salt. And then finally, let's open up this fajita mix. Ah, I love pre-made stuff. If I can get it open. Okay. Same thing, I'm just gonna give this a little sprinkle of our smoked salt. The thing is sometimes you might be thinking, oh, is this over seasoned? Is this too much? Once you start really seasoning your food well, not necessarily aggressively, but really well, your food is going to taste amazing, and suddenly free from, it's not gonna be bad at all. You're just gonna be like, man, this is really good food. And it's because you're seasoning well, okay? So I'm just plopping these right on the tray, just like that. And then I'm also gonna add a little bit more smoked salt. And the reason why is because like the top side got smoked salt and not the bottom side. So I just wanna make sure it's well seasoned. Ta-da! And that's it. Are you seeing the ease in all of this? Now, I am going to preheat my ovens to 425. All right, now we're going to make our final tray. This time, you need a mixing bowl or just a large pot because I couldn't find a good mixing bowl that I wanted to use. And to that, you're going to be adding your ground beef, okay? Now, remember, I'm feeding people who eat a certain way. You might not need as much beef as we use. You can always scale down the recipe, okay? That is always an option. All right, guys. Now what I'm going to do is pop our other two beautiful trays into the oven since our ovens are hot. And this is going to take us a minute because I'm doing meatballs. So let me get these in the oven. Now what we're going to do is season our beef. Remember, we're going for like a honey ginger type of beef. I'm going to add honey. And you can tailor this to your personal desires. If you know you don't love honey, only use a little, or use maple syrup instead. It's a great option for substituting. To this, I will be adding our salt. I like to aggressively season beef, personally, because I know that's how my kids like to eat it. You don't have to season as aggressively if you don't want to. And a little bit of garlic. As always, just a little touch of black pepper. Keeps things interesting. And here I've got ground ginger. You can also use fresh ginger for this. The reason I like ground ginger for meatballs is I feel like it's easier to distribute the flavor overall. With fresh ginger, you end up with like these chunks of ginger just all over the place. Unless you've gotten like, finely grated ginger, then that's totally different. Ooh, I got it. Woo, I got it. Okay, garlic. I like to cheat and just buy pre-cut garlic like this. I'm not gonna lie. Could you get a garlic press? Yes, you could. Does this make your life easier? Yes, it does. Take from that what you will. I am going to use just a little touch of cumin just to add some depth to this. Totally optional. And then finally, onion. You'll need a large fork of some sort, and you're just going to mix this all together. Now, you might have noticed I'm using a pot as a mixing bowl. And the reason why is because this avoids cross contact in our house. The previous mixing bowl I'd used, maybe you noticed there was red on it. Red is our color for things that are needing to be for a specific person, and then other colors are for other people. And so the person who needs the red is allergic to beef, and so a very simple way to make sure that their stuff stays separate is just to use the other type of stuff, whether that be a different mixing bowl. I mean, the guys who use this one, they do have a mixing bowl, but I couldn't reach it. So I was like, I'll just use a pot. It's no big deal. But I could not use the red tools for this particular set of stuff. Now, another little thing you can do, since we're on the topic, color code your utensils, okay? You can either use like a red Sharpie or a red Expo marker. You just tip it in red. That way, as soon as you go to grab it, it makes you stop and think. In fact, the kids got to pick the colors, and they were like, we want red for a stop sign. And I was like, okay, that's fair. So red colander, red, even like a red meat thermometer. There's so much red, right? And it makes it so that people just stop and think. They don't use the wrong tools. And with your cutting boards, something you'll want to do, label them with a Sharpie, right? We have several cutting boards. We either color code our cutting boards, like the black one is always for meat kind of a thing, but we also write on the corners. I always write like meat or fruit veg or who it's for. If it's for a specific person, I put their initial on it. So like all of my cutting boards have a big old K on them. That way everybody knows, like, don't touch that cutting board. So there are lots of little things you can do in your own kitchen to make sure that cross contact is not an issue. Now, I'm sure you noticed this is an egg-free, breadcrumb-free type of deal here. You don't actually need those ingredients to make a good meatball. What you do, however, need to do is watch your cook time, or else you can dry out your meat pretty easily. So just be careful with that. Now that this is nicely mixed, I am just going to use this scooper here. Fun fact, we even have red scoopers. So we really took the red thing seriously. Okay, and I am going to be making some pretty big meatballs, just like so. Now, one of the things that I like about making meatballs is you can have them like right away for dinner. These are great for even breakfast. Excellent in a lunchbox. They freeze beautifully, which means you can then thaw them and have another meal waiting to go. So don't be afraid to put in a little bit of extra time up front and then suddenly have like a bunch of food later. I mean, you should see our freezers. Yes, I said freezers as in plural. Technically, there are 5 freezers in this house, which I probably shouldn't have said that out loud, but there are. And so what that means is there's always something ready to go pretty much for everyone. And that includes desserts too, because I make freezer-friendly desserts. You can absolutely have a free-from life that does not take up, you know, all day, every day of your waking moments in the kitchen. It's all about how you plan, how you execute, and then of course how you freeze. I'm gonna get this tray full of meatballs, and we'll add our broccoli and we'll be ready to go. Okay, as you can see, I made the mistake of filling up my tray all the way. Mainly because I did like 2 pounds of ground beef. If I had done just the 1 pound, this would have worked out great. But these guys, they're like, give me more meatballs. So I'm gonna grab another tray for my broccoli. Just going to get some oil on this tray. And then add my broccoli. Add a little bit of salt. And then just a touch of onion to keep reinforcing those flavors. Just gonna mix this up a little bit. And there we have it. We've got our next meal ready to go. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna let those ovens finish up, and then we'll swap everything, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how you can customize your own sheet pans. All right, I've got 2 ovens ready to go. Oh my goodness, look at these potatoes. Doesn't this look amazing? Okay, so here's our first tray. It's a little heavy. Gotta put your legs into it. And then our second tray. Look at that. Okay. Meanwhile, I'll pop these other 2 trays in. Now, do you have to make as many trays in one go as I make? No, of course not. But if you make a bunch all at once, then what you can do is pre-make lunches for the week, or fill your freezer, or do whatever you want to do with the extras. Okay, I've got somebody here. He's going to sample. Let's see. You're going to sample essentially it's the Italian sausage tray, and then the barbecue faux fajita tray.
Wow.
You're also probably going to
smells amazing in here, by the way.
You're going to burn your mouth a little bit.
Yeah, she just takes it out of the oven. Here, eat something extremely hot.
I mean, what's the point?
450 degrees hot.
Yeah. Okay, here's your Italian tray.
Italian tray. Well, that's good.
What's it like?
It's well seasoned. It tastes.
But you know what though?
Italian,
remember, guys,
right?
when I was telling you, if you season your food well,
Mm-hmm.
you forget that it's free from. Oh man, it's this awful gluten-free, free from, dairy-free, top. Like you're not feeling like you're being punished necessarily for eating free from. You're like, he's literally trying to take the bowl back, saying, "Give me more," and it's free from.
So I eat in restaurants, various grades of restaurants. This stuff is better than restaurant food.
Ooh, really?
Fish mom.
Okay, I can get behind that.
I mean, because you don't, in most restaurants, you don't get that much flavor.
Hear that, guys? In most restaurants, you're not getting that much flavor. So just stay home and make food. Okay.
Right.
All right. Give that a try. Might be a little bit messy. Ooh, chicken looks nice and juicy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is a faux barbecue, just like a barbecue sauce on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You might want to get a little bit of the extra bits to go with it. It sort of all goes together. Yeah. Yeah, like that. And don't be upset. Good eggs cut the vegetables for me.
Did they?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Better than restaurant food.
You guys saw it happen. You saw how this came together. And here we've got someone, so he's only coconut and macadamia nut free, meaning he can eat almost anywhere and, eat anything. So if he's telling you that this free from food is good, you know it's good.
It's good.
It's good. Now that we've got our sheet pans done, you can see my mess over there, a couple of sheet pans. There are several ways to serve this up. So here's a lunchbox option. Okay. And same meal, toddler option. Same meal, dinner option, right? You can also, this isn't something I'd necessarily freeze because the sausages can be frozen like when you first buy them, right? The green beans were already frozen, and potatoes, you kind of don't really want to freeze those. They don't necessarily reheat the best. Then over here, we've got our faux chicken thing, right? We've got some produce there. Same deal. We've got a little toddler plate. And it's really just serving your kids something they're really going to enjoy in smaller portions. And we've also got our dinner plate, right? In terms of freezing, same deal. I wouldn't necessarily freeze these items. These are more like convenience items you pull from the freezer to then make, as compared to something you would make then freeze. Whereas our meatballs, which are just about to come out, that's something you would make then freeze. I mean, you could technically freeze the ground meat, which I did. It arrived frozen. But you can also, cook it up, freeze the meatballs, thaw the meatballs, stick them in a lunchbox, and that would be ready to go. Our meatballs are out. This is what they look like. Look at that. Our roasted broccoli has got a little bit of char on it in a good way. This is just how these guys like it. So for them, this is perfect. One of the things you can do to be successful with free-from lunches, in my personal opinion, is to keep convenience produce on hand, right? So for example, you can get these pre-cut with the like crinkle cut carrots. You can also buy like baby carrots if you wanted to. You can buy lunchbox peppers, which just look like this. Obviously you can slice up some apple. By keeping produce ready to go in your fridge, when it's time to get lunches packed, you can kind of go, okay, what's the main? Boom, and then grab some produce or some starches or whatever it is that you need. Now I've got this very hot meatball that we are gonna have that guy sample for us.
It's really rich.
Okay.
Great flavoring. Like I said, it's better than restaurant.
All right, that's it. This is how you make easy, free-from sheet pan meals. If you guys have any questions, let me know. And remember, you can now take this concept and run with it, right? Maybe you've got a beef sausage that you like, or you have a chicken sausage that you like, or a pork sausage, whatever kind of sausage. Chop it up, that's one part. And then grab a frozen veg, toss it on, done. Maybe you want sweet potato. Maybe you can't have white potato. Maybe you can't have any potato and you opt for cauliflower instead, right? Or maybe you heat up a pot of rice and then serve your sheet pan items with rice. All of that is valid. It is all valid. What I really want you to see from this is that you can make amazing, delicious meals that don't have to take forever and, like he said, better than a restaurant. I'm Kathleen of the Allergy Chef, and I will see you next time.